What's going on, people? Welcome to the opposition preview as we face Burnley in Oliver Glasner's first game, and it's at Selhurst Park. I'm joined by Joe from the TurfCast podcast. As usual, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, you already know the gist, but thanks to every single one of you that's been doing it throughout the season. Joe, I'll be honest, I thought being a Palace fan was hard this season, but it must be... I don't know. I'm trying to think as a Burnley fan, looking from the outside in, you had a very good championship season, and you just haven't been able to adapt to the Premier League, but you've still got some exciting young players. What have you made of it so far?
Yeah, it's been a disaster, let's be honest. I think some people said I was being dramatic last season when I said it was my favourite ever season following Burnley because of the way we won the league. Yes, we've achieved more. Obviously, finishing 7th under Daesh, playing Olympiacos in Athens. Obviously, we lost, but, we had a very small European run. So we have achieved more. But last season, like the actual season itself, the way we played, the way we won football matches, the way we won the league, winning it at Ewood Park, home of our nemesis, you know what I mean? It was fantastic. And this season, people are once again saying I'm dramatic. Maybe I'm just a dramatic person when I'm saying it's probably one of the worst seasons I've had following Burnley. We've gone from cloud nine to the absolute doldrums. It's not been great. We're just getting spanked every week. And obviously last time out 5-0 against Arsenal. We played all right against Liverpool. Probably should have took the lead or at least should have equalised. Fofana had a couple of chances. But yeah, most weeks, obviously, we've conceded 5, I think, on the top of my head on 3 different occasions. Could potentially even be more. It's not been a great season. And I left the turf on Saturday feeling probably the worst I've felt in a long time coming off a football match.
And that was the defeat, of course, that you're talking about against Arsenal. It was the early goal. I was watching the game as well as conceding in the 4th minute and then not really recovering from there onwards. What do you think? Who do you think the blame should go towards? Is it the players, the manager? As Vincent Kompany was highly praised before you started this season due to what happened in the championship season, and it seems like maybe his tactics, he hasn't adapted to the Premier League. Saying that, Burnley better than anyone else. He hasn't. It seemed like there has been a few adjustments recently in terms of like the possession. I know some people tend to ignore that, but he has made a bit of adjustments, but still it's not working out.
No, I wouldn't want to lay the blame on any individual's door. I wouldn't want to sit here and say it's all Kompany. I wouldn't want to sit here and say it's all Alan Pace, the chairman. I wouldn't want to sit here and say it's all the recruitment team or it's all the actual players. I just think it's just a mixture of everything. Like there's a lot of things that just haven't gone right. I think like we've already referenced the brilliant championship season last season, the standout players last season with the likes of Josh Cullen, the likes of Anas Sarori, the likes of Manuel Benson. Then 3 don't play anymore. And what's his name? The goalkeeper that we had off the top of my head, Ari Netmioric, started the season shaky last season, but came on and ended up being a fantastic keeper. These are just 4 players that just haven't been given a chance. They've just not been given a chance in the Premier League. So much to the point where Anas Sarori is actually out on loan at Hull now. Scored last night in the win against Southampton. Of course he did. Josh Cullen, I understand it because in the earlier games he were getting overrun. But Manuel Benson as well, so many times last season we just get the ball to him on the right, he cut inside on his left foot, bend it in the top corner. That's how we won the league. That was the goal that won the league at Ewood Park. He was so good at that. It was like Arjen Robben, just like a B-Tech version. Like you knew what he was going to do, but you couldn't stop it. It was going in the net. As soon as that shoulder dipped, you know what's happening. In fact, so much to the point where I used to shout, he's going to do it. As his shoulder would dip in, and like 4 times, I was absolutely spot on. I shout, even when we won the league at Ewood, I went, he's going to do it, and he did it, and he did it. You just couldn't stop it. But just these players haven't been given a chance, and that to me is Vincent Kompany. It's potentially the recruitment because we brought in all these players and all these young, exciting talents. Again, as you've already referenced, we've got Luca Corley-Oshaw injured, Wilson Odebear done very well, but probably been a little bit quiet his last few games. James Trafford, who's been dreadful. Let's be fair, he's been dreadful this season. But these players, no matter what, are playing. And I don't know if it's something above where they're saying, like, look, we have to be playing these players because we want to sell them on for profit in a few years. Like Trafford, for example. Like, don't get me wrong, I've said it a million times. So apologies any Burnley fans listening to this because they'll be thinking, I'm sick of hearing about this. But he's not good enough for this league. He's too young. is a boy playing in a man's league. All you have to do is stick it in the air and he will flap, and he's not getting anywhere near it. Don't get me wrong, he's going to be brilliant. He will be the England #1 goalkeeper because he's the under-21s, and that just seems to be the way it works in the England setup. Once you're in there, you're in there. And there's even talk of him taking him to Euros this summer, as the third keeper because he wouldn't get there, which for me is just balmy, just so he can have the experience. But this is my point, like all these players aren't good enough that are still being played, like these youngsters or some of the summer signings, like O'Shea, for example. He came in from West Brom, has got better recently, but was poor against Arsenal. And yeah, it's just a lot of it. And I do think companies being stubborn. I do think the recruitment teams bought some players that aren't ready yet, but just because they want to sell them on. I do think the players are not showing enough fight, some of them. And I do think, it's just like I said, just an accumulation of different things to the point where we're just going down with an absolute whimper and just can't see any way out of it now.
Is company's job under pressure?
Not really. And it might sound bizarre that to opposition fans, because you look at the teams around us. Sheffield United changed the manager. Luton, obviously, they're doing very well for what we expected them. So they're not going to get rid of Rob Edwards. Forest, they've got rid of their manager. Yourselves just got rid of your manager. You know what I mean? So every other club in this position or having a season that we are having would have, I'm going to say would at the very minimum have their manager under pressure, but probably at the very minimum their footballers these days got rid of the manager, made a change. And it's just not looking like we will do. But I'm happy with that. I don't want us to sack Vincent Kompany, which again may sound bizarre. I just don't see the point in doing it now. We're going to go down. What's the point in getting rid of him now? Because a lot of these players, the first thing they say when they come to Burnley is not, I'm only here for the manager, because obviously that would be ridiculous. But, the manager's a big part of why I'm here. Or you got all these young French lads, all these young Belgian lads, all these young European lads who, let's be honest, if Sean Dyche were the manager, they'd look at us twice and be like, yeah, I ain't coming there. That's not my style. I don't want to play there. But they're there because Vincent Kompany convinced them. So if we get rid of him and bring in somebody like, I don't know, obviously we wouldn't do this, but another manager of the Dyche ilk like Dean Smith, all right, he's doing very well at Charlotte FC, I believe, in the MLS, so he's obviously not going to. But, somebody like that, all these players are going to think, I don't want to be here anymore. And they're just going to have to completely revamp the playing style again. So for me, it just seems silly to get rid of him now. I've seen some shouts recently on Twitter. Like, I say he's not under pressure, and he's not. I'm speaking from the boardroom level. But the fans are starting to get a little bit arsey with it now. There's a lot more questions about him, from myself included. Like, yes, I am still Kompany in. But the last podcast, we had, a 20, 25-minute debate on why he's so stubborn, why he's sticking with certain players, why he's sticking with certain tactics, and then asking the questions to the people in the stream whether they want him in or out. And it is getting louder and louder. The people want him out. But I just don't think it'd make any sense at this stage, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, he's done brilliant in the Championship. Let's say you go back down and then you have another excellent season in the Championship. Then don't you end up in this, I don't know, maybe you can learn from your lessons, but in a similar predicament with Kompany back in the Premier League? Like, do you think it's just a case of him learning? What is it that wants you to keep Kompany for the long term, despite you being so bad this season?
I mean, for me, like I said, I don't think at the minute it's the right time, because we are going down. And I felt, it was the Palace game at home where I left for the first time this season thinking, we're actually going down. Because you didn't play well. We didn't play well. Nobody played well. But you didn't have to get out of second gear. And we just gifted you 2 goals. And that was just mistakes after mistake after mistake. So that was the time where I felt we were going down. So obviously, I still feel that way. So I still feel like we're going down. If anything, the last few games we've got worse. But for me, like you said, it's funny you raised that point, because Neil, who does the full-time show with us, he's on the pod, obviously, like every week. And he said in the last show, the last show that he ron, he wasn't actually on this week, saying, yes, we might go down and have another great season in the Championship next season, but what's the point if we're just going to come up and we've got Kompany again and he's just going to do this again? But I know you've said it yourself, but I raised the point of, yes, he's a young manager. He's 37. He's 1 year older than me. And I'm sat in my spare room, a middle-aged fat man doing a podcast. Whereas he's a manager of Burnley football. He's learning. It's his first year as a manager at the very top league in the world. Let's not forget, it's the best league in the world. Yes, he did all right at Anderlecht, but this is his first proper job at a club in a top 5 division. So he's going to be learning and he's going to be taking things on board. And I look at the players that we've got. I know I've mentioned some already. I actually think Trafford will be okay in the Championship next season for everything I've just said. Your Corley Orshaws, your Amdounis. Amdouni will probably leave, to be fair, but your Corley Orshaws, your Order Bears, your Aaron Ramseys, even Josh Cullen was a Championship Player of the Year last year. And he's going to be there again still next year. Your Zaroris, if Hull don't go up, because they'll probably buy him if they do. Your Bensons, if they still want to be here, because I do feel like they've been treated poorly by the manager, if I'm honest. I think we'll be all right next season. I genuinely do. I think we'll be all right, and I think we'll have a good year. And then hopefully the players and the manager especially will have a year of experience in the Premier League behind them, another year of experience in the Championship behind them, and hopefully will then learn from the mistakes that they've all made this season. Because, like I said, it's not just company.
I don't think you've got experience in this one. And I think,
exactly.
I think, you've lacked that. And maybe next season, if you do go down and then you get promoted, maybe recruitment can be a bit different. I think the whole club can learn from this. But quickly, just talking about Palace, let's get your thoughts on it. Oliver Glasner comes in. Roy Hodgson steps down as the manager. What have you made of that decision? Do you think it was the right one?
I think it was overdue, if I'm honest. I think, I mean, you'll probably have a different view than me, but I remember at the time when Hodgson came back, I remember thinking it would just end in a sacking eventually. But having said that, he did all right. He did all right originally. It gave you the lift that you wanted. But ultimately, it was only going to ever end this way of you wanting to get rid of him because of his style of play and the players that you've got. Obviously, your Elises, Yezes, the sort of players that don't necessarily suit a Hodgson system too much, and it'll be interesting to see how you do with the new manager. I think he's a bit of a coup, to be fair. Obviously won the Europa League with Frankfurt, beating Rangers in the final a couple of years ago. I do think it's a bit of a coup. But I'll be honest, even though I watched Frankfurt a lot in that year, they won the Europa League simply because they played against some British teams. Obviously, I think they beat West Ham on the way, didn't they, and then beat Rangers in the final. It's going to be interesting to see how you play because I don't know his style. I presume it's quite a high press sort of style because that seems to be the model in Germany. It'd be interesting to see how you set up on Saturday.
I do think that, of course, that will play a part. But let's say we had Hodgson in this game still in comparison to Glasner. Would you have been a bit more hopeful in terms of getting a result, or for you it doesn't really matter due to what you've seen from Burnley so far this season?
I mean, I would be more hopeful, but it was quite funny because I put a post up the other day when you announced him saying, here we go, Palace will have a new manager bounce now on Saturday, like a fuming face sort of thing. The majority of the comments was like it would matter. They'd have beaten us anyway. So, I think the majority of Burnley fans are just thinking it's irrelevant. But I would have had more hope. Hodgson, I know you beat us at the Turf, but I feel like we handed it you. Like, you didn't have to do anything to get that win. And we have got better in that sense.
That was one of the worst wins I've seen. And I've seen a lot of bad win in terms of like the performance is not really matching up to the result. And that one, I said it. Like I said after that game, I wasn't even happy. I know we beat you lot 2-0, but I was thinking if this was any other side that had a bit more quality in front of goal, then we would have 100% lost this game because of the amount of chances that you created. And what happens after the Burnley game? Yeah, we go in a slump. Like the performances don't lie. You can get results here and there, but performance needs to match up. And we just simply haven't matched them up so far this season. And there's been a lot of problems. But you know what? It's best for Roy. It's best for the team because of course he's got health problems that's bigger than football. It's about time he just rests up, looks after himself, and you can't go against his passion. I mean, the fact that he still wants to manage at that age is incredible. Considering how long he's been managing for. In terms of players, then you did mention a few players already. Are there any players that are on form that we need to stop?
Nobody's on form at the minute.
So there's two teams with everyone out of form.
Basically, it's going to be another easy Palace win where we hand you the goals. But no, like Fofana's done relatively okay since he's come in. Got 2 goals against Fulham. Yeah, I mean, he's a different. I mean, like, look, I know you just mentioned the Palace game at the Turf earlier in the season where you guys won 2-0, and yes, we did miss a lot of chances, but that was when Lyle Foster was going through his mental health issues, and we didn't have anyone to replace him. So we had a lot of issues up front then because of then. Since then, he's come back. We brought Fofana in. and we've tried to do it a little bit differently. Unfortunately, Lyle is now out again for the season. He's actually had some surgery on a groin muscle, so it's nothing to do with his mental health issues. It's not that again. But unfortunately, he's out. But yeah, Fofana looks decent. Like, he is exciting. He's the type of player that will drive into the box like more of a traditional number 9, whereas Foster will tend to hang around and try and play on defenders' shoulders, sort of thing. So it's a different type of striker, and he looked good, man. He held the ball up well against City when he came on against City. Everybody said, right, Company, try something different now. Maybe start Fofana. He did well when he come on. What does Company do? Doesn't start him. We go 2-0 down early on in the first half against Fulham. Second half, he brings him on. What happens? He scores 2 goals. So that's just another highlight of Company's stubbornness that I was mentioning earlier that's starting to grate on me a little bit. But last time out against Arsenal, obviously didn't really get a sniff, as you'd expect. We're playing a very good Arsenal side and we got beat 5-0, so that's obvious. But against Liverpool, he did miss a couple of chances. So the chances are being created in all of the games apart from the Arsenal game. But obviously, in the head of a football fan, you're only as good as your last game. So there's obviously been a lot of mourning, a lot of we aren't good enough sort of thing. But if we go back to the Fulham game and go back to the Liverpool game, we created chances. Obviously scored 2 against Fulham, scored the 1 against Liverpool, should have scored more, should have scored at least 2. But so, yeah, the chances are there. So if I were going to pick anybody, I'd pick Fofana just because he's getting in the areas. But yeah, he probably should have done better against Liverpool, but at least he got a couple of goals against Fulham. But other than that, probably Wilson Odebear, even though he has been a little bit quiet recently. But, the last 2 games have been against Liverpool, and Arsenal. So what would you expect? He's kind of like it's probably, if we went down, for example, I think he probably, I was going to say, I don't really know what your new style is, but it'd suit Palace. Like, it's somebody, when you look at him, like, he stinks of Palace. You know what I mean? He's one of them players that runs. Yeah,
he's a winger, right?
Winger, tricky, runs at defenders. Palace written all over him, mate. That's not me trying to sell him. You're not allowed to buy him.
We'll take him. If you're selling it, we'll take him. We do need that. Well, we don't know. With Glasner's system, we don't know exactly what he's going to do.
I have no idea how you're going to play.
Based on what he's done in the past, but we don't know if he's going to implement that straight away at Palace. Because we've got injuries. Remember, we've got Eze still. Well, funny enough, Eze, I think he's going to be back for this game. Gay is going to be back for this game. But Elise still will be out. We don't know yet if Eze or Gay he's going to play. But we're going to potentially have a few of our key players out, and I don't know how he's going to. He hasn't got that long to work. Only a few days before we face you lot. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of that. Just quickly, Joe. Then you're not really as upbeat. You seem like this season is done and dusted for you.
Yeah, done and dusted.
Score predictions. 2-1 your Burnley after all of this.
Honestly, the thing is that we haven't won since, as you mentioned off air, since before Christmas when we beat Fulham 2-0. But I went into that game despondent, feeling like I can't be arsed anymore. And I haven't felt like that since now. So it'd be interesting if every time I feel despondent, we go and get a random win in London. Because obviously we got it at Fulham. But yeah, I'm thinking probably 2-0 Palace, 2-1, something like that. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, I don't know how you're going to play. I don't really know how you're going to set up. So it's a difficult one to predict. But with the way we played, if we play like we did against Arsenal, admittedly, Arsenal are a very good side. And with all due respect, Palace aren't going to be as good as that. So it's going to be interesting to see how we do against you guys in relation to that, because we have played relatively well in some games recently, just not got the results to show for it. But yeah, there was no fight from the players on Saturday, no desire. Players have been deleting Instagram comments from fans. Companies come out and said something ridiculous in an interview that people are now even more annoyed at. Because obviously I mentioned earlier about the players that weren't getting minutes. An interviewee actually asked him the question, like, why aren't these players getting minutes? And he said, I feel like everybody's had the chance to show that they're good enough at the Premier League level. But, it's just a level above for some people. Manuel Benson's played 73 minutes of Premier League football. Like, how is that a good enough chance? Harry Netmioris hasn't played 1 minute of Premier League football. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just... There's not a lot of positivity around the club at the minute. So 2-0 Palace, unfortunately.
2-0 Palace. I'm going to go for 1-0 Palace. For us, I just want the new manager to have, a start with a winning ways. And I think his ideas will take a while. I don't think we'll settle in straight away, but we'll see. We've got new coaching staff as well, quite a few new ones. But yeah, I'm going to go for 1-0 Palace. Now, let us know in the comment section down below your score predictions and thoughts ahead of the game. And also make sure to check out Joe's channel, the TurfCast podcast, and also on YouTube as well. So make sure to check that out. That's it from me and Joe. And until next time, up the Palace.